Hi, I'm John Karabaic, and I'm a sales engineer at Case. In today's Trial KBOX 1000 Getting Started video, we'll be covering labels, notifications, and filters. First, log into your KBOX using the admin password that you created when you installed it. You'll be taken to the welcome page. If you ever have trouble working with your KBOX or have a question you want to have answered, click on the live chat icon that you'll find on your welcome page. We're going to start at the guided tour for inventory today and go through some of the things that are available to us there. We have a couple of machines in inventory. One is a Macintosh and one is a Windows machine. If we wanted to group machines together in a particular way, we label them on the KBOX. In the KBOX, labels can be used anywhere, and they're how you organize everything on the KBOX. Machines, software, assets, patches, and you apply labels to keep things in groups that you can then use to take action. Let's create a few different labels here. Let's create a label called Macintoshes. Let's create another label called Windows Machines. And let's create another label called John's Office. And I'll show you how we can organize machines using labels. Create the labels first. You'll always have to go back to this label tab to be able to work with labels that you want to create or delete. Then you go to the tab that has the things that you want to organize. And there are three sub-tabs here under the search area. Under advanced search, you can do things like search on anything that we find in inventory. In the case of inventory, we have things like BIOS information, disk information, operating system information, hardware information. So if we wanted to find all the machines that were on a particular IP address or IP address range, we could type that in here. I want to find all the machines that are on the 192.168.245 network, which is what I'm working with here. If I click search, it'll find all those. Other kind of things that you can search on include asset management fields. This is information about a computer that's not stored on the computer. And there's another category of information that you can work with here, and those are called custom fields. And we'll go into custom fields in the next part of this demo. But if I wanted to organize all the machines together that perhaps were Macintosh or Windows machines, instead of just doing advanced search, I would create a filter. And under create filter, I can go to OS name, for example, and I could look for an OS name that contains Mac OS. Let's test that filter. And we found one machine. I can go ahead and associate that to the label Macintoshes and create that filter. Let's create another filter for Windows machines. We'll look for an OS machine that contains Windows. Let's test that one. We found a different machine this time. And we'll associate that with all the Windows machines. Now if we go back to inventory and I go to choose action and I say show labels, we'll see that none of the labels have been applied to these machines yet. That's because labels only act on inventory information that's more recent than when the label was created. I'll force an inventory update of this machine. Let's go back to our inventory and I'll force an inventory update of the Windows machine. And we go back to inventory and we see when machines check in again, we'll be able to see that they'll be added to particular labels. We wait for these machines to check in. There we go. Telemachus checked in and got the label Windows machine applied to him. And now Odysseus is checked in, is on the label Macintoshes. Let's add one more kind of label. I'll go to create filter and I'll say, if a machine is in a particular subnet, and that subnet is a subnet in my office, I want them all to be grouped together under the John's Office label. I'm going to pick IP address. Now I could do contains. That would give me some information if it had the IP address anywhere in the range, but I'm going to do something a little bit more precise. I'm going to have it match a regular expression. And all you need to know for using regular expressions to match IP addresses is you use the caret symbol to anchor it at the beginning. And I'm going to say it has to begin with 192. And I would type a dot in, but a dot is a special character in a regular expression, so I escape it with a slash, 192.168, and then a slash dot, then a 245 slash dot. That's my home subnet. Let's test that one. It found both those machines, and I'll create that filter and label it to John's office. And notice when we go back to computer inventory, they're not in the John's office label yet. If I force an inventory update, when that machine checks in, it will have that label added to it. The latency to which labels are added to computers is as long as your inventory interval is. So plan your distributions accordingly. Notice that this machine now has 2 labels. It's in John's office and has Macintoshes. If I go into it and scroll down to the labels area, we can see the labels that have been applied to this machine. Now let's go and work on some other label information. Once we've got machines organized by labels, we can start adding more information to them. We can use notifications to tell us about information on particular machines. For example, if we wanted to be told whenever a machine has a particular software title installed, like iTunes, we'll enter the software name and click the Test Notification button. This machine has it installed because it's a Macintosh. Okay, maybe I wanted to say, well, we expect iTunes to be on a Macintosh, so we don't want them on any of the Windows machines. So maybe if it's in a label that contains Windows. Let's correct this, and let's see what we get. There we go. We filtered out the Macintoshes. We'll have it by default, leaving no machines because no Windows machines have it installed. Let's give it a name, add a recipient, create that notification, and now once I've created it, I can choose how often I'd like it to run. I'll let it notify me daily of machines that have had iTunes installed. And if I want to edit the SQL directly, I can do so here. So now you have machines in inventory. You've organized them by means of inventory information. You can also organize machines via labels based on Active Directory or LDAP information. That's a little bit more complicated. I'll just go over it. We'll dedicate a separate tutorial to Active Directory by itself, but I'll give you a brief overview. So we first need to go to Reporting and then click on LDAP filters. And let's look at the Member of Finance group filter first. In this filter, what happens is every time a machine checks in, we're going to go to a particular LDAP server. In this case, the one at this IP address. You can also put a host name in there, and we'll contact it at the standard LDAP port number. And we're going to start at a particular container. In this case, we're going to look at the user's container. We use the user's distinguished name here to find the user's container. And we're going to run a query inside that container. And this query, we're going to look for a user whose SAM account name equals this macro, KBOX username. KBOX username is the name of the user that we got out of inventory for the machine that just checked in. And you see on the right, we have all these other different macros that you can use as well. We're going to look for a user whose SAM account name is equal to KBOX username and who also has a member of property equal to this distinguished name, the finance group. To actually be able to search LDAP, we have to enter a login here. Now this can be a user who only has read credentials. In this case, we're using an administrator, but it could be anyone with appropriate credentials to read or search the containers that you're looking in. Every time a machine checks in, we run this search. If we get a hit, the label Member of Finance Group will be added to that machine in inventory. Now let's look at the other label. I'll click on Member of Building A. In this one, we're doing the same thing. We're going to search on an LDAP server. And we're going to start in another container, this time the computer's container, using the computer's distinguished name. In this case, we're going to use another macro in our search. We're going to look at the name of the computer we just got out of inventory. We're going to compare the name of the computer that just checked in, and we're going to see if it has a member of property equal to the Building A distinguished name. Very similar concept. KBOX includes a facility called the LDAP browser that lets you build those filters interactively as well. If you'd like additional information on your trial KBox, be sure to check out a live or on-demand webcast of maximizing your trial KBox experience. If you haven't downloaded the trial KBox yet, be sure to do so at www.case.com/trial.